Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining MSL Capita, our session on mindfulness and a whole body athlete development approach. We're gonna just wait like a minute or so, probably 60 seconds, right, for people to come in, and then we'll get started. And also, we know how hard these Zoom things are. Thank you, Carolyn, for having your camera on. I really appreciate that. I'd encourage everyone to really be with us, join us, let us see your face. That's how we really connect in this post-COVID era. Oh, and I'm also going to ask that everyone, if you have that extra minute, grab a paper and pen, which you will need for this. So while we're waiting that minute for people to come in, grab that paper and pen, and then we'll get started. Thanks for turning your camera on too, Sam. I appreciate that. Also, good name. We're in this. Let's go. Okay, so people who are here from the start, you're going to hear me repeat that people bring a pen and paper to get ready a bunch of times. Let me introduce myself. I'm Sam Anzer. I work here as the Director of Professional Learning at MindSpark. And what we do at MindSpark is we create the best professional developments and learning experiences for educators. And Capita is one of our programs, and it's essentially based in this very simple idea that you want to be the coach that athletes want to play for, work for, and win for. And our guiding principle behind the Capita program is that if we treat coaches with the same esteem that we treat classroom educators with, knowing that they have the same amount of impact and ability to make an impact in our students' lives, we'll get better students, better athletes, and better school performance. So thank you for coming to this mindfulness session. This session is all about developing mindfulness in your athletes and a whole body approach to athletic development. Really, basically, I would say that what this idea is about is that everyone knows that what it's like to be in the flow state, to feel like you're doing something and it's just happening. You weren't thinking about your day at work. You weren't thinking about if this person that can guard you. It was almost like an out-of-body experience. And as much as possible, we want to experience this, and we want our athletes to experience this. We don't want them experiencing that like toxic stress, that those like ideas and moments that take you out of yourself. We want to be centered. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said it awesomely right there. There's more to athletes than just muscles, right? You got to play with your soul as well as your body. So we're going to have a competition first. On the screen, you see a concentration grid, which means that you're going to look at these numbers. You're going to have to choose the numbers in order as they go up. So you're going to find 0 first, then you're going to find 1, and it's a grid that measures your concentration and focus. This is a competition. There is a high stakes Amazon gift card on the line, $10. I don't know what you could get on Amazon for $10, but it'll reduce the cost. You'll be at checkout and you'll be like, wow, I forgot I had that. That's so nice. So you can see the suggested times right there, and the coaches, and the link to that is being dropped in the chat right now. Let me double check and make sure that's there. And I'm going to set a timer for 4 minutes. There's going to be one winner, one Amazon gift card winner, a measure of your concentration and focus. And I'm going to start. Give me a thumbs up, people on camera, when you're in there, right before you hit start on the concentration grid. So I know you're ready to go, and I will start the 4-minute timer. I see a thumbs up from Sam. I see a thumbs up from Carolyn. Thank you. I appreciate that. Jenny, I see you. I'm getting super close to my computer screen. People with their cameras off, I can't see you, but listen, we're going to party. So here we go. I'm going to start the 4-minute timer, and winner takes all. Ready, set, go. Okay, that is time. I forgot to turn off that. I hate that sound. I forgot to turn it off. And wherever you're at, drop your number in the chat. What did you get up to? I see those numbers trickling in right there. Okay, we're going to record that and we will get our winner later on. At the end of the session, we'll announce it. But it looks like, Sam, you got a pretty strong lead so far. So what does this have to do with mindfulness? Two thoughts. We're going to do this activity again. But before we do, I want to give you two thoughts. And the first thought is you can practice reframing. So now when we do this exercise, it's no longer a direct competition with your colleagues on this call. And it's not a measure of your focus and concentration skills, right? It's not, oh, I'm good at concentrating, I'm bad at concentrating, I failed at this, Sam has the highest score, I'm a loser, none of that stuff, right? Let's reframe it. This is where that pen and paper that I asked you for a moment ago is going to come in. And this is going to be a personal thing. You're not going to share it out. So we're going to do this exercise again. And now that you know what it's like, that it's kind of like pressing and things like that, how can you reframe it so you can get something different out of it, something that you want? Take that moment and write down in a sentence what you want to get out of doing this exercise again. If you want to put it in the chat, you can. If you want to write it down personally, you can. But I'm going to say about a minute. I appreciate the thumbs up I'm seeing on the icons and on camera and everything. So you have your reason. The activity is going to stay the same, but the way you think about the activity is what's going to change. Here's the second thought that I'm going to give you before we do this concentration grid again. We're going to do 10 mindful breaths, right? And you could see the research-based reason as to why I'm suggesting that we do a few mindful breaths. And I know that there's sometimes people think that this is like, you know, hippy dippy or whatever it is like that, but there's real research based in these approaches. One of these ideas is a recent study that's being cited here is that mindful meditation and taking these deep breaths that oxygenate your blood and your brain are not just good for that purpose, but also for reducing your cortisol levels. And cortisol levels is the stress hormone. So literally taking deep breaths will reduce your stress. It can affect your muscles. It could change you physiological, which they've documented as well. Can everyone see that on the bottom of the screen too? That's not being cut off by anything. That's good. Okay. So I'm going to lead you through 3 mindful breaths, just 3, and then you could kind of turn off your camera and do 10 on your own. So what that's going to look like is this. The goal of a mindful breath, we're breathing all the time, but the goal of a mindful breath is that you're not thinking of anything else besides your breath. And when you bring your mind in to focus on just your breath, you're not thinking about the things that are stressing you out or the pressures that you have, whether that's on or off the field, in or out of work, or wherever you may be. So the goal of this is just to feel your breath happening within your body. That's kind of the thing you're thinking about. So you'll take a deep breath in, and you'll kind of feel like wherever you're feeling it, like I'm feeling it right now, kind of like in my chest and my lungs. And then you'll breathe out, and you'll just feel how it feels when you breathe out. And sometimes you'll get distracted, and then you'll just notice, hey, that's a distraction that's happening, and you'll return to the breath. So let's do 3 breaths together. Then you'll turn your camera off if you want, and we'll do 10 separate. So I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to take a deep breath in. As I let my breath out, I kind of feel like my shoulders relaxing. That's my second one. Keeping track of them kind of makes me feel like I got it. That's my third. Now your goal here is just to feel your breath. You could turn your camera off, take your 10 deep breaths, and when you return, turn your camera back on. As you finish feeling the breath that's happening in you, when you're ready to go, you could turn your camera back on, and I know that you're with me. So we're about to go through the coach's concentration grid again. And as we do, even me taking this moment to take 10 deep breaths and think about reframing this made me feel great. It made me feel great because, I mean, I want to do a good job right now, right? But my goal is not to get a standing ovation from all 20 of you at home. My goal is to be here, to be present with you and to engage with you. And also, when I took those 10 deep breaths, it kind of made me feel like, you know what? It's cool. We got this. Let's enjoy what we're doing and let's be present. So that's my motivation when I'm going in. We're going to take a look at that concentration grid again and think about what can you learn from experiencing this a second time. Now that link is in the chat, and when I see a bunch of thumbs up, whether it's icons or visual, thank you, Carolyn, thank you, Darren, then I'll start the 4-minute timer. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's end wherever we're at. What I'm going to ask you to think about immediately is to get metacognitive, like think about how you just felt. I gave you a performative task, and in the first time I told you about how there's going to be a winner and it's a measure of your concentration and skill. And in the second time, you were able to reframe it, meaning you decided how you wanted to think about this experience, and you were able to take 10 deep breaths and connect with yourself. We're going to go into breakout rooms with your fellow coaches and colleagues for like about the next 4 minutes, and you're going to get to talk about this experience and just each speak to this idea. What was the difference in your two experiences? Those breakout rooms are opening now. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Let me see if I could get my screen share going right here. So I was hearing in the breakout rooms. I was hearing in the breakout rooms a lot of different ideas, which I was really glad to hear. Like Jenny, I heard Jenny talking about the difference between her first and second time our heart was racing, and that like performance kind of like anxiety that I tried as hard as I could to induce over online to really make you feel uncomfortable. I really wanted you to feel stressed out. And I was able to do it with a $10 Amazon gift card, which was great. And then also I heard about strategies and how you reframed it the second time. Who was I talking to? Camry was talking about how her goal when she reframed it was just this idea of self-improvement, even if it's just, 1 or 2 times better. Can you guys see my screen? Am I doing this right? Okay. Is that working? So this idea of reframing, and you guys can all see this slide, right? Okay. You could see research here by Dr. Race, who, well, actually, I'll give you a moment to read it before I talk about it. So yeah, when you look at this, the task stays the same, but the way you engage with it changes. And there's a reason why I didn't ask you if your score improved, because if I did that, then I would just be kind of presenting this idea that if you take 10 deep breaths, you'll do better every single time performance-wise, which is not the case. And that's not the reality of it. A lot of research and everything else would suggest that these things all help and contribute to success, but it's not the only reason for doing this. It's this idea of seeing the athlete as a whole body and a whole individual. So what is mindfulness? You could see two quick quotes right there, which I'll let you examine for a moment. And before I tell you exactly what mindfulness is as it relates to the research I've done and how we're implementing it at Capita, you could drop in the chat what you think mindfulness is to you in your own definition. I like that idea you dropped in the chat, Danny. Yeah, I think in 2 words, that's the best definition that I could think of. And as it relates to in the moment, there's, as it relates to athletes and performance, being present is what we want all the time. We want to achieve that flow state. We want to be there. We don't want to be distracted. Let's talk about some of these benefits for mindfulness for athletes and coaches. And these are 2 pieces of research that I think kind of like outline the other ideas that we're going to present. Right, so it's good to have research behind you, and everything we do is with that base, but these are things that you probably didn't need a research paper to tell you. If you've competed, you know what it feels like when you're not distracted. And that's the feeling that we want. And this is a way to achieve it, to be present. So this is what we're going to do coming up. I want to give you guys an idea. I'm going to present 2 mindfulness techniques. And this is, again, where that pen and paper is going to come up. I'm going to present 2 mindfulness techniques on the next slide. They're going to have like an example with them and some research. And then to yourself, you're going to choose the one that interests you more. And then afterwards, we'll go into breakout rooms and you'll say, this is how I think I could implement this with my athletes or within my practice. And then we'll do a whole group share out where you'll steal from one person who has a good idea and is like, oh, they may work with this younger group or in this different sport, but I could adapt it like this. And this is the way that we're going to kind of like stack our techniques and how we can get the most out of this hour. Okay, so here we go. Our first 2 techniques are body scan and visualization. And I'm going to give you guys about 4 minutes to read them and do this. No, you know what? Yeah, go ahead. And then we'll talk about it afterwards. So about 4 minutes. Okay, that's just about time. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go into breakout rooms for about 3 minutes with your colleagues. And you're going to share out which one you chose, body scan or visualization, and how you could kind of see it being a part of your practice. And you're listening with the intent of like, how can I also incorporate this person's idea, if it's not mine, to that. So breakout rooms for 3 minutes. Opening now. Hey everyone, welcome back. I got to overhear a really good conversation. I hope I didn't get to tell you this in your breakout room, Celeste, but could you kind of share out what you were thinking as you're processing those 2 mindfulness techniques?
Sorry, I came in late. I heard my name though.
Yeah, I was just saying that I didn't get to tell you in your breakout room, but I really enjoyed what you were saying. And I was wondering if you could kind of share it out and let everyone know what you were thinking about the mindfulness techniques.
Oh, okay. So I enjoy using both of the techniques. By role in my schools, I'm a mental health coordinator, so we do a lot of mindfulness activities, but I enjoy working specifically with athletes since I'm a former athlete myself. But I was talking about the different situations when we can implement both like one or the other, because it's kind of beneficial case by case. Like no one technique may be best for all of our athletes or our students if we're working with students. But the body scan I was mentioning, I know like the visualization was the one that was mainly highlighted for when physical activity may be, inhibited for whatever reason. But when dealing with the body scan as well, I like using the body scan because the athlete to kind of be more in what they're feeling. And so for the example I gave was like, let's say we have like an ACL injury and we're noticing that, we're a little bit weak, or we are a little bit unstable when it comes to certain movements, stability of our ACL. As we're doing the body scan, maybe in that moment, we can identify other areas that may not be affected, right? So our ACL, we know, is surrounded by other muscles. So let's highlight the fact that even though our ACL may be feeling unstable, like as we're doing the body scan, we may notice that our quads may feel strong still, regardless of that instability. And just highlighting, like I was talking about, like a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. So highlighting the positives and the facts that like this is not permanent, but I have other strengths. So that's why I like using the body scan as well. And then I really think my partner in my breakout room had a great interpretation for using visualizations with anyone with disabilities, or if they are have any handicaps. So I don't know if she can share, but it was really cool what she would tell since we got out.
Yeah, we're gonna mix up the breakout rooms and talk about it more, but I think both techniques are great for athletes who are temporarily injured or having those disabilities, where they can get a way of practicing within their mind or understanding what's going on with their body. And you spoke to them expertly. So we're gonna move ahead so you can get 2 more techniques for you right now. We're gonna engage in the same exercise. There's 2 more mindfulness techniques here. You'll see mindful moving. This is really slow, repetitive set of motions tied to breath. I do a bit of boxing, and I'm doing this as I focus on my form and making sure that my breaths are coming at the right part of my form and really being in my body. And also the second one that I told you about, which is related to reframing, is waking up to self-talk. So we're going to have about 3-ish minutes for that. And then we'll go out to the breakout rooms and we'll do the same thing. So you're going to read the information, choose one that you want to use and incorporate in your practice, and then we'll share it in our breakout rooms. Okay, breakout rooms are about to open. We're going to keep moving. In these breakout rooms, you're going to talk about which one you chose and how you think you could implement it into your practice. And as you're listening, you're going to think about how you can adapt what that person's saying to your own ideas as well. Breakout rooms for 3 minutes, opening now. I got to hear a lot of good ideas, especially some implementations I never heard of. Reagan, would you mind just for a few seconds kind of telling us what you were saying as I was leaving your breakout room?
Yeah, so I've coached a couple of different sports. One of the ones that I did was wrestling, and one of the ways that I implemented this it's more of a recognition of that negative self-talk. I wanted to make sure that my athletes recognized when they had one of those negative talks that they tried to fight that off with one skill or another. And I have made them like little like flashcards that they'd carry around, and they'd draw one of them. They had 2 decks, basically an affirmation deck and an action deck. So anytime they had one of those negative thoughts, it could be draw one action, and I'd have them kind of alternate. They would draw an action or an affirmation. So their affirmations could have been something like, I work harder in practice every day to become the best wrestler that I can be. Or they could have had one that was like an action. So say they had that thought, oh man, I can't beat this guy because he's a state champion. They draw an action card and they got to do like 10 push-ups. And so whatever it was, whether they were drawing an affirmation or an action, they're always trying to improve themselves. And they get that recognition of when they have that negative self-talk to do something good or positive for themselves in order to fight that off.
I think that's an excellent system for combating those ideas and like turning your doubts into actions. I'm going to throw you guys a curveball as we get to the end of our session, and that is this. What mindfulness techniques will you commit to for yourself? And the reason that I'm throwing you this curveball is that you cannot expect to turn around and teach these things to your athletes or your staff or anyone on your team if you are not genuinely engaging with them yourself. When you speak from a place of truth and experience, Your athletes will pick up on that, your colleagues will pick up on that, and everyone around you will be able to tell, and you'll know that you're speaking from that point. So when you say, hey, when I feel doubt, I take 10 deep breaths and it works for me, and you're saying that from your heart and experience, people will know, and the people you lead will feel that as well. So on that piece of paper, I'm going to ask you to personally, and not share it out, take 1 minute and write which of these mindfulness techniques are you going to commit to doing for yourself in your own life. I think that a lot of times, a lot of us really value the promises we make to other people, like our athletes and our students, but I think that it's just as important to honor those promises that you make to yourself. So honor that promise that you make to yourself. As we end, what are you walking away from this session with? You can just drop it in the chat. This is a good practice to kind of reflect and make your learning personal and put into words and understand what you're getting out of this. And it benefits other people too. Yes, Carolyn. I'm so glad you shared that, Reagan. Jenny got something from it too. Thank you, Cameron. I love having this space where we can like all kind of share our ideas. This is what makes it so much fun. So we're getting to our last few minutes, and you could keep putting things in the chat as you're going. While you're doing that, we're doing a lot of really cool things here at Capita. We're working on the Neuro Athlete, which is a connection of mind and body training, highly related to this one. So if you like that, that's something to look out for. We're looking on another one in human capital shifts as well. That means more along the ideas of engaging your athletes as like whole human people with all human identities, and how to do that and practices surrounding that. And my favorite, the next one that I'm leading, is creating a diverse, equitable, and inclusive vision in sports. And what this means is a research-based and kind of like ideation approach to, let me see, I bet I could say that better. It's an approach where we're able to engage with and explain why diverse teams are better. And that could be athletes who come from a different background, right? Like if you have a former basketball athlete on your volleyball team and what they would bring to it, or recruiting differently, meaning getting more men involved in your sport, getting more women involved in your sport, upperclassmen, underclassmen, whatever it may be, and the shifts that happen because of that. That's really cool, and I can't wait to see you guys there at that one. So the links for that is being dropped in the chat as well. Thank you for that. I wanted to thank you all for joining. All of you did such a great job. Like I felt like I learned something. All you guys totally engaged in the concentration gigs. You were willing to make yourself uncomfortable, and I really appreciate that. And you were able to learn from each other. We have a quick survey that's going in the chat, and we have one more Amazon $10 gift card. So if you're not Sam, maybe you can also get a chance to get a spatula or whatever you want to get on Amazon. And that survey is in the chat, and we'd really appreciate that, because this is my athletic field. This is how I get better. And you letting me know what I did well and what I could do better is, I care about that. So thank you for doing that. My email and Capita's email is being dropped in the chat as well. And when you're done with that survey, you can just log off and have a great evening.